besides what I said earlier, am I really actually a Greenpeace activist who's just asking you to be nice? Or are there in fact some real business benefits here? Well, I think that there are, and I think that there are 8 of them. The first one we've already spoken about. I think it's fairly obvious. Doing this can reduce your costs. That's a business benefit. Especially during a downturn, during a recession, we want to find ways to reduce any inefficiencies and unnecessary use. So reducing costs is number 1. Number 2 is that you can reduce your risks. Now, risk is a huge thing that businesses have to deal with on an ongoing basis. Risk basically is what your shareholders look at when they put money into the business. How risky is it? How many risks are you prepared to take? Sustainability is one of the biggest risks facing almost every industry in the world right now. The risk that oil runs out, the risk that water runs out, the risk that natural resources run out, the risk that governments shut down companies that pollute too much and give you only 2 years warning in doing so. Or the risks that Coca-Cola and Pepsi discovered when they created a bottling plant in Kerala in India. On the southern end of India, in a province, there was a little village called Kerala which had 2 massive factories. A Coke plant at the one end of the factory and a Pepsi plant at the other. It was a great place, a great location, because there was easy access down to what are called the deep aquifers, the lower level of groundwater that we discovered about 20 years ago. We discovered how to mine and drill down to that level and get that water. So water being a huge requirement for Coke and Pepsi, they put these plants in this particular location. As it happened in 2002, there was low rainfall in the region and there was a drought across most of India, and Kerala was heavily hit, and the village well and water supply dried up and there was no water in the village. It's probably more than a village, to be honest. It's an Indian village. I mean, this is the hundreds of thousands of people who were without water. And of course, they blamed the Coke and Pepsi factories. You guys have sucked our wells dry. So they called a town meeting together, and Coke and Pepsi got engineers together, and they drew a diagram, and they showed that, no, your water comes from here, our water comes from down here. We haven't done anything to your water, we're dealing with aquifers and all the rest. And Coke said, well, it's not our problem, thank you very much, and they basically left the building. Pepsi said, but we will get our engineers to dig your village water supply down to the deep aquifers. It's not our water. It's not as if they had bought the water, they were just using the water, so they got the well down. Short version of the story is that in 2004, under great pressure from the local government, the Coke factory was shut down. It was considered a drain on the village's resources, especially its water resources, and it was literally shut down, boarded up. But when the government came to shut down the Pepsi factory, which is what the regional government had wanted to do, the villagers themselves forced the government agents to leave the village and said, the Pepsi plant stays open. Social capital is what it's called. And that happened to Coke and Pepsi. It could happen to you. The risk that some activity of yours, your business, causes an unsustainable event to take place in a local community is huge and imminent in almost every industry. That was the logo that people developed in India and put it on Coke vending machines throughout India. I mean, then you're in trouble when people start doing that. If you can reduce your risks, you will protect yourself against that kind of issue. You will build social capital so that the people in the communities will be on your side if ever anything happens in the future. You will enhance your reputation, but here from a business perspective, listen carefully, you can reduce your insurance costs. Isn't insurance just a factor of risk? And if you can show your insurers that you have taken steps to reduce your risks, you should be able to reduce your insurance costs. And maybe even more importantly, access to capital is going to change in the next 5 years. As we come out of this recession, it's not going to be back to business as usual for the banks and the investors. There's a new environment we're moving into, and they need the least risky environments, or the least risky investments. So access to capital and the cost of capital can be, well, the access can be increased and the cost of capital can be decreased if you reduce your business risk. The third reason for doing this is that legislation and regulation is coming. If you live in and work in England, if you live and work in Australia, it's already there. It's coming quickly in the United States and in South Africa. It's coming soon. It will happen during the next sitting of Parliament, this next 5 years. As white papers from Tinus van Schalkwyk's office are already out around environmental legislation. So you can preempt that. And in fact, if you do preempt it, you can get huge public exposure by actually supporting the government, because this is a fun way to beat your competition, isn't it? If you've done all the hard work to become compliant ahead of the game, you can call for even greater compliance and get everybody else really hurting in the industry.